Welcome to Speak as One. I'm Julie Coriath. Today we have with us Jamal Gross. Hi, Jamal.
How are we doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
Thank you for being here.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Glad to be on the show.
Well, so, we're here to talk about mental health and athletes, which you know a lot about, being a trainer, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But I'd love for our audience just to get to know a little bit about you, where you were raised, and how you got into becoming a trainer.
Sure. So my background, grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, originally from Maryland. I went to University of Maryland as well. Around then was really where I got to itch for professional basketball. I grew up playing, and it was a big part of my childhood, but once I got to university, that's kind of when I started pursuing it as a profession. Mm-hmm. I was a manager for the men's basketball team at Maryland. Then I became a graduate assistant, got my master's degree in business, and while I was in grad school, started making connections with NBA personnel and different people around the league. And my first stop out of college was with the RGV Vipers, which is the G League of the Houston Rockets.
Okay.
So then from RGV went to Houston, and since then I've worked with the Portland Trailblazers, Phoenix Suns, NBA All-Star team, and a lot of different programs.
That's had to be an incredibly exciting time in your life.
It's been a fun adventure, working with some really unique players, great organizations, great staffs, high-level people. It's been a blessing, and I'm definitely a lucky person to have gone through it the way that I have.
Yeah, and you say blessing, and is faith an important part of your life?
No, without question. It's. I grew up the son of a pastor, mm-hmm. So it was definitely kind of a foreign concept to have a Sunday that wasn't in church. Mm-hmm. Then beyond that, it's just, you start off with it as a rudimentary part of your week, but in time, for me, as I grew up and learned, I developed my own relationship that's kind of helped me grow, helped me learn, helped me develop, and it's been a beautiful one. So
yeah, that's so going back to your time at the University of Maryland, what we're hearing now around college athletes is quite concerning. We're hearing the numbers. In 2022 there were 4 deaths by suicide in the month of March and April, I believe, and we're hearing a lot about athletes and mental health. When you were at Maryland, did you see that? Did you see athletes struggling, or do you feel like it's been since the pandemic and there's been a change?
That's a good question. For me, I think the tricky thing about mental health and seeing people battle it is it happens in so many different ways, right? Everybody goes through their own journey, their own battle, their own experience that is unique to them. So before I quickly say that I wasn't as aware in college, I think I did witness people go through their own path. I just, at the time, I didn't recognize it for, a mental health area of growth or a mental health challenge for them. But it's definitely a big part of it. There was a guy that I coached against when I was in college, who I later worked with in the NBA, and there was an unfortunate tragedy with him when it came to suicide. So it's scary and unfortunate how prevalent it is, but it's also, sports have provide this unique opportunity for you to actually have a team around you while you're going through certain things. So I as challenging as it is, there's definitely some beautiful parts to my experience that I'm excited to share as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk more about your colleague in just a little bit, but it's interesting, I think, because we're hearing more about mental health more than ever now, right? Mm-hmm. And I think what you said can be so true, is that maybe you don't understand if somebody's going through it, or you don't even recognize it, and you do have these team members around you. And now that we're starting to see that it's 38% of men struggle with depression and anxiety in college athletes, and women it's a little bit higher. And so now that we're starting to see these numbers rise, I think the importance of being a team almost has to grow in a different way.
Sure.
To make sure that you are taking care of each other beyond your physical and kind of like that team health. And do you agree with that? Or?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Sports, to me, I grew up in basketball. I grew up playing basketball and AAU buses and tournaments and stuff. And you go through your own exciting adventure with playing a game, but in the conclusion, sports should serve as an opportunity to grow. You as a person, you as an individual, your ability with relationships, your ability to recognize things, right? Sports, there's so many different beautiful life lessons that come out of just being a kid growing up playing sports and then doing it at an elite level as a high Division I or even a D3 school. Is just playing sports, it'll do some things for you. And one of those things, and an element that you're kind of talking about, is the importance of realizing that you have a team with you with everything that you do, right? With certain relationship challenges that you might go through, certain self-doubts, there have been times, even me, where I wasn't sure about something or I was doubting myself and my team picked me up, and there is no premium you can put on that. And to add to that, now I'm in a place where not only I'm helping lift others, but I am quick to turn something that's supposed to be individual into a team environment, right? With how I work professionally, with how I move, training guys. Like if you feel like you're alone in something, you're not. Let's figure out how we can team up and make it a goal, a unified goal that we can all accomplish.
Yes, and our whole mission with Speak as One is and what we say is we are healthier together.
Right.
And really bringing out the conversation around mental health and making it a lot like our physical health. And you're hearing that more and more. When you're at your optimal physical health, you don't stop working out. You're working out harder, you're lifting heavier weights, and how can we start treating our mental health the same way?
Yeah.
And making it a together thing, because then it separates this certain isolation that people feel when they're like, okay, I go see a therapist, and it becomes a very lonely world instead of saying like, hey, yeah, I went to see a therapist, like, if you're ever interested, I can give you your number. Like, make it a conversation and being a true team where you can talk about all of those things and bring each other up. Yeah, I think it's just one of the parts that I'm seeing that's so important. What else is new is, NIL, and these young kids are now, getting money. Also, social media has always been around, but it really doesn't stop the fact that there's people out there that are, really pretty much bashing some of these young kids that are still impressionable. And it's hard to see them as impressionable when, they're tall women or men and they're athletes, and you think they should have it all together. And it seems to me like if these professional athletes who make tens of millions of dollars are coming out about their mental health, and they really have to focus on sports and sponsorships, then imagine how it must be trying to juggle grades, NIL, social media, trying to have a life, playing the game, practicing for the game. I mean,
yeah, it's not easy. It is not easy. It's the unfortunate truth is that there's a lot of schools, a lot of programs that will stress student athlete. The student comes first, and a picture is painted before you get to college. There's this picture painted about academics and how they are the priority, and everything else is secondary. But when you actually step into it and you have to go to your 6 a.m. practice and still have to be at the 8 a.m. class, when you have to come back in the evening for workouts, when you're traveling on the road, sleeping on the plane, you have a 3-page paper due the next day, you're juggling life. Like you're 19 years old, and we're not just talking about going to class and going to practice. You're physically exhausted. It's not just a kind of a workout. No, you're physically exhausted from working out, and then you still have to mentally produce, on an academic level. So it's all that stuff. It's a lot to juggle, and it is definitely a full-time job. There are college athletes who are working and doing a lot to put the school in a better position, the athletics program in a better position, you know, and all of that stuff. I get excited when I hear about NIL, you know, deals and how they're helping change some lives, but it's also scary because it's coming with its own set of challenges that add to making this a weird, you know, experience. So I holistically, I sympathize with the juggle, but I also am excited about how that process actually turns you into a very gifted individual if you allow it to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, well, I've gotten to meet a couple of the NIL foundations, be a champion in Texas One here at UT, and they seem to really care about these athletes and are wanting to try and do more besides just like hand them a check.
Right.
Both of these foundations they care about them as a whole person, as a whole being. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's really, it's just really heartening to see.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You love hearing stories like that. You love seeing connections like that and relationships like that.
Absolutely. So on the trainer side of it, I think one of the things is when we see sports, we see the athletes, we see the coaches, and there are so many people behind making all of this come together, and training them is one of them. Can you just kind of paint the picture of that for us? I mean, is your schedule equally as intense as theirs?
Yeah, so yes. Every job that I've held, and I've been a manager, I've been a graduate assistant, I've been a video coordinator, I've been a player development coach, I've been a sports specific coach, right? And in those titles, every single one of them, I'm on the court before the players, I'm on the court after the players. I'm in the coaches' meetings before the head coach walks in, I'm in the coaches' meetings after he leaves. I'm there during the summer, I'm there during the off season. It is definitely a grind